Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, otherwise known as AISA. I'm your host, as always, David Willett, and it is my pleasure to have you with us as we explore the diverse voices of the Australian cyber industry. This special edition of Cyber Voices was recorded at CyberCon 2024 and is part of our series from the conference highlighting some of the thought leaders that came together to make CyberCon so special. Welcome back to Cyber Voices, recorded live on day 3 of CyberCon 2024. I'm joined by my day 3 co-host buddy, Jasmine McCrudden, the award-winning Jasmine McCrudden. I didn't say that for the last one, but I should just continue to say it for the start of every episode. What was the little award you won the other night?
AISA Volunteer of the Year Award.
And we have a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That's
and there was a lot that also deserved it as well.
Absolutely.
It was an honour and I'm very humbled.
Yeah, I was very happy that you won.
Thank you. Your support means the world.
You are right, though. This is an association that is built on volunteers.
Yeah.
So much of what we do is built on the back of volunteers and our amazing operations team as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for the time that you lent to us.
And special shout out to the New South Wales AISA patch team.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have done it without them.
Absolutely. You're doing good things up there.
Yeah, it's fun. You should come join us.
I didn't realise I was about to interview you.
Yes. Without further ado, we have got the wonderful Vanessa Van Beek with us. Vanessa, how you going?
I'm great. Really good. And delighted to be here.
Yeah.
I first met Jasmine. We had an event for the Cyber Leadership Institute.
Yeah.
And you were there.
That's true.
And then you followed me up and we had coffee.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of, reaching out to the community, connecting with people.
Yeah,
you're amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to see you on stage the other night. It's amazing.
And the second time I saw you, you actually won an award at the Women in Security Awards this year.
Yeah, I did.
That was amazing. You deserve that.
Thank you very much.
I love your story into cyber. I'm sure other people want to hear about it. So, do you mind sharing?
Sure, I'd love to share. I was awarded the Cybersecurity Champion this year for Women in Security. My career in cyber sort of came through incident response. I was leading Telstra incident response around the time of COVID, and prior to that managed the bushfire response and the flood response and cyclone response. And a security operations environment said to me, will you come and run our security operations environment looking after about 19 customers? And I said, yeah. And I had a couple of things happen personally within my family environment. I had a couple of deaths through COVID and I lost my brother after a long fight with mental health. And so I wanted to find something that would give me a sense of purpose in the work. And it was cyber. And the more I got involved in cyber, the more I found my purpose just bubbling up to the surface.
Yeah.
It's really meaningful work. It's work that involves working with people and it's work that protects Australia. So I found my energy come back. I just threw myself in, did a whole bunch of certifications.
Yeah.
I did Emily Edgley's powerful presenting course, joined AWSN, and with the support of a whole bunch of great networks in the community, just completely transformed my career. So I grafted across from an IT in network and IT into cyber.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful culture that's built up around the cybersecurity industry. When you think about what our main area of focus is, which is basically stopping large organized groups of criminals from attacking individuals and organizations and governments, as an industry, we've really started to come together as this real wonderful community that's real passionate about what we do, because it can be quite stressful work. But we've really stepped up and started to support each other. And I think that's why it's so wonderful that we've got events like AISA CyberCon where that community can really come together. So how has your CyberCon experience been?
Amazing. This is my third CyberCon, which is incredible. I stepped in, we had PerthSec a couple of years ago, and I noticed there wasn't so many women presenting.
Okay.
And one of my colleagues said, we've got to get a few more women stepping up and sharing what they're doing in cyber. And so I stepped forward and presented. And in terms of that collaboration, I said to one of the really senior leaders who was running a different cyber company, I said, will you just kind of sit down with me and listen to my talk before I give my talk? And they said yes. And they brought me into their boardroom. They listened to my presentation.
Wow.
Gave me some advice. I reworked a few things. And my fear about presenting for the first time is, what if people get up and leave? What if I present something that doesn't quite land right? So it's an incredibly supportive community. When you let people know what you need, people just step in and just harness that shield you with that kind of support.
Yeah.
And from there, I presented at Canberra, and one of my great passions in cyber is working with teams that are neurodiverse. So I took my 50 kilos of Lego to Canberra and did a Lego serious play session with some really brilliant minds from Defence, Interpol, all the federal departments over there. And I had some, amazing sessions where we actually built the threat landscape out of Lego, and we talked about roles in cyber. And the insight we got when people, just used a different part of their brain, and we paused talking for a bit and, did some thinking with our hands and then shared kind of those moments was amazing. And then from there, I've presented at a number of different conferences in Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, and CyberCon.
I've heard about your Lego session at Canberra. I was at the Canberra conference. And yes, the word about your Lego session did get around. It was quite well enjoyed, I believe.
Yeah. It was kind of fun going into Canberra with a suitcase of 50 kilos of Lego. I felt a bit like a drug runner. I was worried about what they were going to say. What is in that bag? And it's like, this
just
is
Lego.
This is my 50 kilos of Lego.
What is it about Lego and cyber people?
There is a lot of Lego here.
Yeah, is it the building of something? Is it the journey? Is it the creation? What is it?
No, Lego's timeless.
I think we've also got to look at the people we have in cyber.
Yeah.
Many of them are introverts. Many of them are creatives. Many people like to think, then process. And Lego is that medium that allows everyone to share something.
Yeah.
And it kind of democratizes the whole process. Yeah, so I like Lego for that reason. Yeah.
I've never thought about Lego like that. That's really cool.
Really unpack that one.
Yeah.
And thank you for supporting the SEC Days as well and the Canberra conference. So these are other really, really important events in the AC year and for the industry. The SEC Days I like to think of as almost like just little appetizers that you get throughout the year in our capital cities, and they've been really well received as well. And the Canberra community loves that they get CyberCon. The Melbourne event is obviously the big flagship event of the year.
Yeah.
One of your talks, The Cyber Mosaic, How Diversity Creates Impeccable Defenses. Love the title. Tell us a little bit about it.
It comes from something that I needed to change. So when I was working in security operations, we needed to make sure that the whole team was diverse. And when I think of diversity, I think of it in many different areas. And what's obvious to everybody is gender diversity, sex diversity. But what's less obvious is we need neurodiversity. We need people who think differently, and we need different backgrounds. So we need people who are self-taught. We need people who go to TAFE colleges and are technically trained. We do need people who've also gone to university and want to do the strategy and leadership and consulting part of security. So in forming that team, I looked around and we were starting to bid some defence work, and I needed people who'd worked in defence. So we had a program where we brought some defence vets into a protected level SOC that I built, and that made all the difference because these people understood how defence worked. They understood the need for policies and procedures. And when I started talking about security controls and protective controls and physical controls, they were very compliant and really understood it. I had another bunch of much younger people and they wanted to work in quite a different environment. They actually wanted to work in a more hybrid environment. So we actually had a number of security operations environment, a protected level environment, and then an environment where we could actually have people working from home more at enterprise level customers. And so we actually needed all of those. And I had a woman who I interviewed once, and she didn't interview particularly well, but I knew she had all of the right background. So I kind of suspended the interview and said, hey, just come and join us.
Yeah.
And let's just start navigating. And she was perfect for the role because she had a real process and team lead focus because we needed that kind of real experience coming into the team. So she was someone grafting across to cyber from a deep background in project management and trained in ITIL process management, and she was the perfect person for the role. Yeah. But on paper, she didn't look like that. So I think in cyber, what we do is we give opportunities to people. They may not have all of the skills necessary to begin with, but they do need a chance, and they also. And I think the thing about what we're doing in cyber is you pick up a job description and you fill the role of that job description, but by the 12 or 18 months on, we should be actually crafting a job based on that person's hidden potential, based on their talents and their strengths. And that's exactly what we did for a number of people in that team because their skills were developing at such a rate. We couldn't have job descriptions that fitted what their capabilities were. So we actually started job crafting based on what their strengths were and what we saw we needed in the market.
I like that diversity of skill. That's a really fresh perspective and something that I see a lot in the recruitment industry that people are starting to formulate a lot more. Like there was a hire that I made she was female, she was a SOC analyst, but identified that she could do the engineering work. I was like, you could be an engineer. She's like, I guess I'm starting to do that work. And she went into interviewed amongst some other engineering men, and she smashed the interview. And you know what? It's because she brought this new skill that was very focused on the high EQ that she could bring into the team, something that they were missing. So, yeah, I really like that piece around the diversity and skill.
Yeah, and also experience. So you do need people who've got, 10, 20, 30 years experience. But some of our problems now being solved by some of our graduates with 3 to 6 months experience. So when I first started solving some of the problems, and one of the problems that emerged was that we had this environment tuned, but not all the alarms were firing. And it was one of the grads. We were celebrating the end of a project, and he said, I actually don't think all of the alarms are firing. I think we need to retest. We need to retest it. And it was this quiet voice that came left of centre, someone with not a lot of experience. I said, okay, let's listen to this voice. Let's go back and let's test every rule is firing. And actually, we needed another 6-week intervention to ensure that all of those rules fired. Now, if I'd ignored that quiet, early career person's voice, we might not have had the threat protection that we needed that was serving 20 critical infrastructure companies. And as a result of that piece of work, we lifted the threat coverage by 40%. So that's the value of a quiet voice from a background that we might not have kind of thought had the right level of depth of thinking. But that was something that we listened to. And then from there, I started thinking about where is the quiet voice in this meeting?
Yeah.
Can we pause long enough to invite people to comment so that we get all of those voices before we decide what to do?
Yeah, there can be a lot of dominant voices around a table, especially when you're trying to solve a technical problem. And I'm loving what I've seen with grads because in my previous role, we really embraced bringing graduates and interns in. And I've spoken a bit about it on the podcast before, but they bring such a new way of looking at problems because they're usually thinking a little bit more deeply because dare I say, sometimes they haven't necessarily been tainted by all the legacy business processes and corporate culture and ways of doing things because they're fresh out of that university experience where they've actually been quite actively encouraged to experiment and maybe even fail a little bit. Are you seeing a lot of that in terms of that, ability to maybe just experiment and take a little bit more risk, or is that risk aversity kind of holding us back a little bit?
So here's the thing. We want organisations to be creative and innovative, and we need that right now because we've all been focused on execution post-COVID. But in order to have organisations that are creative and innovative, we have to hold hands with failure. We have to understand that in some of the things we do, not everything we do is going to be successful. And in some of the work young people do or people grafting into cyber do, we may actually have some things that need to be tested and retested, and we might actually need some peer guidance in the initial stage till we get it right. So it's actually holding the fact that we need innovation, which means we'll also have failure. We want collaboration, which means we'll also have conflict. We want diversity, which means we'll also have fear. And it's being able to navigate all of those things, because we want all of this good stuff, but sometimes in leading those organisations, we need to be able to embrace the fact that some of the times we will fail. Some of the times we will be navigating conflict, and some of the times there's a lot of fear in the room, and that also needs to be spoken about. So there's actually a new kind of leadership needed to manage the diverse workforce that we need.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I want to discuss with people is, what are those skills that we need?
Yeah.
How do we pause teams? How do we allow teams to have that time out so that we get the best of all of the brilliant minds in the room? How do we lead differently?
Something you said there, I just want to pull on that thread a little bit. You mentioned post-COVID. I have observed a lot that COVID was a great changer across the whole world in a lot of different things. A lot of us talk about our lives pre and post-COVID over those 2 years. And in the work sense, we all went remote, and hybrid working has remained, and going into the office seems optional in a lot of it's not the norm anymore. And it's created this environment which has created infinitely more risk. But I wonder how much of that has also helped open up the pathways for some of the diversity that you're talking about, especially when it comes to neurodiversity and disability, because we've spoken to some people on the show before about how remote working is actually a lot better in some cases, depending on what type of neurodiversity a person is living with. Being able to work remotely and not overwhelmed by the office space is really quite beneficial. Do you kind of have a similar observation? Like, what is your kind of read on how things have changed in this space in this post-COVID world that we keep talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my teams suggested we do little bios of each other, which defined how we work best. And I did another Lego session with the team to actually talk about mental health. And when we talked about what we needed, the questions I asked was, build what flow looks like in Lego. And they built a model that represented flow, and then built a model that represents what it's like when you're not in flow. And when they built the model about what it's like when you're not in flow, I then heard the stories about what doesn't work in the workplace that upsets them, that causes them not to be able to do brilliant work. Really valuable information for a manager. Coming out of that, they then wrote little bios about what I need in the workplace in order to do good work. For every person in the room, that was something different. Some people wanted to be able to wear headphones all day in the office. Other people actually wanted to work in semi-darkness. Other people wanted to work in quietness. Other people wanted to work with a whiteboard and collaborate. Once we understood what people needed, we completely rebuilt the office. And we had a quiet zone with beanbags so people could chill out. We also had an environment where people who wanted to talk and whiteboard, they could do that. And then we had another room where we could dim the lights right down so they could do the work that they needed to do. And then I listened to what they needed. And what they needed food delivered. People were working 12-hour shifts. Some people working through the night, and the shift would start at 6 p.m. and go to 6 a.m. So when you listen to what it's like to work through the night in an office, it's actually quite hard. How do you get food at 3 in the morning? So we then organised that every shift people would get an Uber Eats voucher. They could get their food delivered, and that would then allow them a shift break to step away from the computer to eat, which is also really important for the brain as well, that people are eating and drinking and walking and moving as well. So we kind of codified what people needed, and that then allowed people to see, okay, you are different. You might wear headphones most of the time, but we actually understand the why about the headphones, or we understand the why do you want to work from home? Because of what the home environment can give you. And then the other great thing about some of the new AI tools is that they're really good for people who are neurodiverse. The ability to have a meeting summarisation, or if you get distracted at a meeting, to be able to say, please update me on what I've missed. actually allows people to keep tracking and stay in the meeting when they might have actually pulled out of a meeting previously. So some of the tools are really cool as well for, to help people who are neurodiverse.
Yeah. And is this work you're doing is primarily with cyber teams? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I'm really blown away by the way that Lego has facilitated this. I know you've already explained to us kind of the psychology behind it, but each story about how Lego has been used to solve a problem, and maybe it's not even just the Lego, it's just the way that it is allowing people to express themselves.
Yeah.
And you are talking about individuals who maybe like us in the room don't have the same strength to be able to do that verbally.
Yeah.
I mean, most I know I struggle sometimes, but like it's really, really quite interesting. And you gave a talk on this today. How was the talk received? What kind of questions did you get? What kind of feedback did you get afterwards?
There's incredible curiosity about diversity, neurodiversity, how we create a work environment for people to fit into this industry and have their needs met. There's a lot of nervousness of some people entering the industry, and when they hear that managers are aware of this and prepared to design roles and workplaces for them to do brilliant work, there's almost a sense of relief. I've done interviews with people with Lego because I understand some people will really stress out about an interview. I've asked people to build me a tower and tell me about their career, and they're able to do that.
That's fantastic.
I've done other exercises because what's really important in cyber is psychological safety. We have to be able to say, I need help. I don't understand. I need someone to swarm this and check I've done it correctly. I think I've missed something. I had someone say to me the other day, I was walking to the train and I realised I missed something. I went back to the office. Something was going on in the network. I told my peers, I briefed them, I worked on it for 2 more hours. I then went home and the team worked on it and isolated something that was really major. So how do you build psychological safety? You've actually got to connect people. You've got to know who are your people, who are your place, what's your story, how do I support you, who sits behind you when you go home, who is your family, who are your pets. And I got people to share about who were their people and their place, a bit like we do with Aboriginal culture. And people shared who their people and place was. Many people shared about their cat. And then we had all of these great images of, their cat, and they would tell us stories about their cat. And then when I asked them to build this model build a tower that represents you, you'd hear the mental health journey and you'd hear how the cat during COVID kind of was the person that kind of at different times checked in on them. And you'd hear about these really peak moments. You hear about conversations you wouldn't normally hear about.
As someone who got a COVID dog, totally relate because I could do a whole podcast talking about my dog.
I got a COVID kitty, so I can relate.
And then the godsend that he was, because I was living by myself at that point in time. It's incredible how that comes out, isn't it?
And see how we're all smiling when you talked about your dog.
That's so true.
You smiled. Your brain filled with dopamine.
So much.
Shout out to Echo at home.
Yeah, we all laughed. We need more of that. Because the work is detailed. The work is isolating. We need things that connect us. Stories connect us. Pets connect us. Lego connects us. So there's kind of a theory behind why would you do this. It's a bit out there, but unless we kind of know who we're working with, we can't rely on each other. We can't call out a problem. We can't say, I missed an incident and can someone help me fix it before this becomes even bigger than it is right now. And if we can call that out early, there's so many remediations we can do quickly to isolate, to contain hosts and to do things than if we hid it under the table and went home and thought the person wouldn't sleep if they went home. But you know what I mean? So we have to have that strength of relationship and psychological safety. It sort of talks to the culture that we heard about in one of the presentations today. It's really, really important. We underestimate the value of the importance of culture. Within our team.
And you mentioned this is the 3rd time you've come to CyberCon. So what have you found different about this year?
This is really vibrant this year. There's many more speakers this year. I mentor a lot of women through Australian Women's Security Network, and 3 of the women I mentor are giving their first conference at this talk.
Great.
That is so exciting to see their ideas now being presented to people in think tanks and around, which is amazing. This is the keynote speakers have been incredible. They have been so polished, so on point. Some of the thinking has just been amazing. Joe Sullivan's talk, he was the CISO of Uber, was incredible. And I sat in the audience for the first 20 minutes feeling really bad as someone who's in the industry that this actually happened to him. And I was so relieved to finally hear his story because that story hasn't been told.
Yeah.
I loved the session we had this morning with Nina. Just like she was just absolutely on fire, absolutely communicated very clearly what's going on in AI, what the new age of AI will give us. It's just amazing. So there's a richness in the keynotes. There's a diversity in all of the talks. And, you know, it's a real, for me, it feels like rocking up to a party because I know a lot of people. And after kind of working in Perth, to fly over and to meet many people I've connected with on social media or LinkedIn and meet them in person and have a drink with them and network. It's just amazing. It's really rich.
Vanessa, I could probably talk to you for a whole another hour.
Looked at the time.
But before we do let you go, you know, what's next, or what advice would you like to leave people with, or how can they engage with the type of work that you're doing?
I think the word is curiosity. There is so much to learn in this field. There's so much to learn technically, but there's also so much to learn about people.
Yeah.
And when I come away from 3 days like this, I've got a bunch of books I want to read. There's so much more I want to learn. And I think this actually allows our industry to keep researching, to keep learning, to expand our collective capability together. So I'd say it's been really valuable.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy what is left of CyberCon 2024, and thank you so much for sharing your voice with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hello there, fellow podcasters. Are you looking to level up your podcast game? Well, let me tell you about This Is a Studio. This Is a Studio is where we record cyber voices each and every single week. They're located at 693 High Street in Pran and Ikla Hawthorne East. They're Melbourne's go-to video podcast studio. Whether you're starting a podcast or taking your podcast to the next level, they've got everything you need: quality equipment, a professional setup, and a team that lives and breathes podcasts. And if you're like us and thinking about going live, these are the folks behind the scenes at events like the AFL Grand Final, Equitina Melbourne 2024, and of course here at CyberCon 2024 as well. Seriously, these guys really know their stuff. So, if you're ready to make your podcast shine, check them out at thisisastudio.com.au. This is a studio where Melbourne's best podcasts come to life. Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@aisa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an AISA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An AISA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at aisa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.